Halloween is a time of trick, treats, and culturally insensitive costumes. A bad Halloween costume can do more than just make you look lazy. It can get you canceled. Native Americans, geishas, and Southern Belle costumes have gotten people cooler than you canceled by social media. Should the classic witch's hat be added to the list of cancelable costumes? The origin of the witch's hat is a historical ball of string, and it's been said that witch hats were inspired by anti-Semitic laws in medieval Europe. So before you top off your Halloween costume with a questionable choice of headgear, let's look into the witch's hat. When it was first seen atop a witch's head, what inspired it, and if you are wearing an anti-Semitic dog whistle this year for your night of tricks and treats. That's what you're in for today on Impolite Society.
Oh, I just detest rude, unladylike young ladies.
I hope you don't mind me being a tad rude.
I myself am strange and unusual.
Don't be rude.
That is some weird, wild stuff.
Shocking, isn't it?
It's a scandal!
But it's provocative.
Please stop making me blush.
I'm Laura.
And I'm the other one.
Also known as Rachel.
Rachel, that's me. 10 points if you can tell our voices apart.
And this is the podcast that explores the taboo, the obscure, and the macabre shit that you know you love. This is Impolite Society. And hopefully that hook got you, and you are going to keep listening to the end where I answer this question of if witches' hats are anti-Semitic. No one wants to get canceled for Halloween costumes, so boom, owned. I got you now, fuckers. You got to keep listening to the end to find out.
For Halloween this year, I'm going to go as canceled.
Do you just like a big like blur face? Twitter followers, 0.
Yeah, and like
That's
a lot
not
of
true.
thumbs
There's like
downs
a billion.
and things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
That's actually not a bad costume.
I think we decided it. Let's make it happen.
I'm going to be Mario for Halloween because that's how we roll in this house. We're all about the Super Mario Brothers. I decided I'm going to be the shorter, squatter one. Austin's going to be the taller, thinner Luigi. And Charlotte's going to be Princess Peach. And the baby's going to be Toad.
One time I dressed up as Mario for a blind date night party thing with my sorority. I was Mario and my blind date was Luigi. And then I had just broken up with my high school boyfriend literally the night before. And so I just made out with that guy for like forever. Like
Did you have the mustache and did it keep like getting into your mouth?
No. I was actually like a really cute Mario, whichever one I was.
Were you a sexy Mario?
I had overalls and then I had like a red t-shirt that I had like rolled up to make it cropped.
You were a sexy
And
Mario.
because I was like going through the drama of breaking up with your high school boyfriend, I was so skinny at the time. I hadn't eaten for like a week. Oh, so skinny and so drunk and so sloppy making out with this dude at the party. What a life.
All right. I chose this topic because one day I was driving around and I was thinking about witches' hats, as one does.
Of course.
And I just wondered, like, what is this all about? It's a very distinctive hat. No witch costume is complete without it. Without it, you're just a woman in black. And so I'm sitting here thinking, where the hell did this come from? What I didn't think when I was considering the witch's hat was how many other pointed hats there are in our world. Because I was sitting there, I was like, oh, witches' hats are pointy. There's not any other pointed hats.
No, never.
Wrong. Throw a stone. There are truly a fuck ton of them. So what pointy hats in our world can you think of, Rachel?
Well, the first and foremost that I think of, because I have a birthday party that I am planning, are those cute little party hats that are like a cone and sometimes they have a fuzzy on the top. And they got that plastic that goes under your chin and you feel like you're in some kind of non-consensual BDSM situation.
And I did look into the paper birthday hat / New Year's hat. That's a very popular New Year's hat. So it's like a celebration style pointy hat. Nobody knows where the hell that came from, but good call out. That is a distinctive pointy hat. What else you got?
Oh man, I didn't know I was going to be on a quiz show. Okay. I also remember for Halloween, since it's top of mind, One year I was a princess and I had a big, tall, pointy cone hat that went with it with like a little streamer that followed behind
like a
it.
Scarfy kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. That is called the hennin, and we will get into that one when we talk about some histories and theories about the cone hat. The cone hat.
The hat of cones. Okay. Well, now that you say cone hat, that also reminds me of like another use of it. And I'm thinking a different holiday, the Christmas Story. I feel like there was a scene where Ralphie was like sitting in the corner and he had this tall white cone hat on. Maybe I'm making that up, but I believe it was the same era. It was like the dunce cap.
Yeah, dunce cap, dunce hat. There was not one in the Christmas Story, but you're spot on. That thing absolutely existed. And I also looked into this one. This one needed its own episode. It is super fucking interesting. But yes, that is another pointed hat from antiquity. What else you got?
You know what children need more of these days? Just public shaming. What? Just put them in the corner with a dunce hat on. Thinking.
Da da da.
White.
Da, da, da,
Oh,
da, da,
oh!
da.
Can I say this? Like a white pointy hat that also brings to mind some imagery.
Oh.
Do you know what I'm saying? White pointy hat that has a hood and maybe like a burning cross. It's like a Klansman hat. Does that count as a pointy hat?
Yes, it is. It is a pointy hat, and that one is very anti-Semitic. We can definitively say on that pointed hat, definitely anti-Semitic. But fun fact, they totally stole that
From the bald knobbers?
No, the bald knobbers have a different, but the also pointy hats,
Right?
Bald knobbers, they've got two little pointy horns, just like devil horns. But the Klan, they totally stole that from Spanish Catholics. Like if you look up Spanish Catholic hats or something, it's gonna come up because it's weird. It's exactly a Klansman outfit, and it's called the capriote. Caprat. I don't know. I don't speak Spanish. And it is the exact costume. It's used to signify punishments or penances in Spanish Catholic culture. But yeah, another pointed hat. I feel like you got one more left in you. You can do it. You can do it. This is like a popular one. You see them a lot.
I see them a lot. Where might I see them?
Fantasy. Little people wear them.
Little people. Oh. Would I maybe see it in a garden?
Yeah.
Okay. This is definitely ringing a bell because I'm a big Sims 4 fan, and like the new Sims 4 world, sometimes these little gnomes pop up and they always have
they come alive?
They just like show up in your house and move around, and it's bizarre and it's kind of scary. So I'm going to say like gnomes, right? Like I'm thinking like the Keebler elves, like little mythical men.
Yeah. So like this is the little people hat. So garden gnome statues, they wear them. Snow White's little dwarves wear them. Smurfs, they wear them too. Tiny people hats.
Tiny people hats. I just want to be big. It's like, hi, I'm a little man. I just want to be big. I wear a big hat to make me look bigger.
Big pointy hat. So this is the Phrygian cap, and we're going to talk a lot about them too. So that was good. Applause for Rachel and her pointy hat.
Oh my gosh. Good thing I studied up on pointy hats. No, just kidding.
So the point that I had was the hats. I mean, they're pointy all over the damn place. There's nothing unique or special about a hat being pointy, which is really one of the big reasons that it's hard to nail down why this is the hat for witches. Capital T, capital H. It is just like the hat. Because some of these cone hats are good, like princesses and birthday hats, and some of them are bad, like witches and dunce caps and Klansman hats. So
very bad.
Everything in this world, hats are tricky, and it's complicated to find out what is going on here. But the imagery of a witchy woman in a tall, pointy black hat started to appear around the 1720s in America and England. And these first came into these little penny children's books, like little engravings, in storybooks and things like that. And they quickly started to spread. And this is not a European thing. This is something to note. Those on the continent, so in Spain and France and, wherever
the
else,
homeland of witches.
Exactly. They have their own folklore of what a witch looks like. And it is not a tall, black, pointy hat. They've got like scarves around their heads. You know, Baba Yaga, she doesn't wear a pointed witch hat.
I was going to say they have houses with chicken feet, you know.
Yeah.
They're subtle. They're way more subtle.
Exactly. So before these 1700s illustrations, witches were usually drawn as being naked, wearing bonnets or scarves, and dancing around fires, not cauldrons. Like that wasn't the imagery.
I like that even though they're nude, they're like, I got to keep my neck warm, you know? I don't
Oh, no,
wanna
they were
catch...
headscarves. They were headscarves, like around their face.
Oh, over their head and their face. Okay.
So as a reference point, because I was looking this up, I was like, I need to orient myself in time here. So when were the Salem witch trials?
I got this.
Place.
AP US history. I want to say they were in the late 1600s.
You would be correct.
That was the essay I had to write. Something about America in the 1600s. And my teacher said, they never ask questions about the 1600s. Guess what we all fucking wrote about? The Salem witch trials.
It was 1692 and 1693 where all this came from. So this depiction of the pointy witch hat came after all of that nonsense. So that it wasn't like, you know, Jane Goody was like, you're a witch. Just look at that hat. You know, back in those days.
I saw Goody Proctor with the devil.
Goody Proctor. I was like, I'm searching for a name and I couldn't find it.
Tore
Goody
down
Proctor.
God and built up a whore. Oh my God. I try to quote the Crucible in my day-to-day life as much as possible.
I need to rewatch it.
I held you while you sweated like a stallion.
Ooh, that sounds sexy.
It is.
It is sexy? Okay, good. Because I was like, ooh.
A lot of things that involve the devil and witches are sexy.
Duh,
obviously.
Dancing nude around fires.
That's literally the opening sequence of the Crucible.
Okay, that was a huge aside. I'm sorry, I got distracted. Okay, back to the research. So, once though this association was made, it was done. It was forever the witch hat, and when that Wicked Witch of the West appeared on the silver screen, thank you, Frank Baum, it was set in stone.
That's literally the iconic witch with the iconic witch look, right? She paved the way, you know, well, I guess not because they did that in the 1700s, but
solidified it for everyone ever.
Yeah, somebody in the 1700s drew a witch hat on a witch, and I'm just curious to know, how did that happen?
Oh, you and a lot of people. Because it is hard to pin down. There are a ton of theories, but I'm going to start with the Phrygian cap. This is the hat of little people and gnomes. Why? I don't know, but it is the one of gnome, dwarf, and smurf fame.
They want to look taller.
Maybe that's it. So this cap, it's like a soft, floppy thing. It has a point at the top, but it kind of, flops forward, all lackadaisical.
A la Smurfs.
Yeah. And it has an interesting history because to the Greeks, it was the hat of the, quote, barbarians that they found in Iran, a.k.a. anybody who wasn't Greek, right? The surrounding areas. Yeah. But over another few hundred or a few thousand years, because who can keep all this fucking ancient, like
Nobody
literal
knows.
ancient history?
Anything that happened before the last, 1,000 years, who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
Even the last fucking 1,000 years, fuzzy.
Yeah.
What happened yesterday?
Yeah, who knows? Truth is in the eye of the beholder.
It's a mystery.
But so the Greeks, they turned into Romans, and in Rome, some cult of mysticism started wearing those hats, those floppy Phrygian hats. So somewhere down the line, it got associated with weirdos. But then, plot twist, it became the Liberty cap because Romans assigned it to freed slaves to wear, like when they became...
So they knew they were former slaves.
Yeah, but also it was a point of pride for people like, yeah, I used to be, but I ain't no more. This is all about my freedom. And it was picked up by French and American revolutionaries as a symbolic hat in the 1700s. You'll see it in a lot of imagery from France and early United States. But the 1700s is around when those witches started to be drawing wearing the hat. So I think we're going to call that bunk because it's just too, like, it was associated with weirdos back in Roman times and then picked up again in the 1700s as a liberty cap. But then they're saying, oh, that's maybe where the inspiration came from. No, like it's all around the Zeitgeist in America and Britain as like, this is the liberty hat. oh, but I'm going to remember 1,000 years ago when these weirdos in Rome wore it.
But what if it was the British people who were like, oh, these weirdos are trying to be liberated?
They took it themselves. Like the Americans were like, yeah, we like this hat. And
No, but what if the pointy hat start in England or did it start in America?
It started with the Rome. Oh, the pointed hat was in America and England because at that time we're the same.
Because I thought it was like a diss. It was like a diss on Americans. Like, they're walking around with their little liberty caps. No. But that is an interesting thought that what the weirdos wear could then become a mythological symbol of the future. So, like, what would be that symbol of weirdos for the future? Would it be like giant wallet chains and like baggy black pants?
The trucker hat.
The trucker hat.
I fucking hate that shit.
That's just Laura's personal preference. That's not like what weirdos wear. I don't know.
Yeah,
we're the weirdos, I guess.
I mean, I wear like wide brimmed hats whenever possible. I have a hard brimmed one that I wear very rarely because it is very hard to drive in and it will fall off my head all the damn time. But I think it looks really cool. But I don't wear it very often.
But is that a point? Is that a point of differentiation between the witch's hat and all these other hats? Is that the witch's hat does have a wide brim?
Yes, that is a unique thing because pointy is one thing. No, you didn't. I think that's a good point because I mean hats they have several components. They have the top and then they have the brimmy section. The Phrygian cap has no brim. It is literally like a cap. It just kind of sits on your head, and that is distinctive about it. So let's go into another theory that does have a brim. And so this is the theory that witch hats come from the alewives of medieval times. These were women who home brewed and sold beer in the streets. I'm sorry. What is that? This is a woman who could make some money without a man?
Better shut that shit down.
And these women who did that, they would also wear these tall black hats, not pointed, but tall and flat on the top with a wide brim in the marketplace to be easily found by the town drunks.
Of course. I mean, you got to make known what you're selling, right? And you got to know your target audience. Marketing.
Get yourself a gimmick, get yourself a gimmick if you want to get a home. Okay, so that's what those alewives started to wear. And then there was a plague, the black one particularly. People started to think that these women, oh gosh, they're poisoning people because they're weirdos that are outside of societal norms and therefore can't be trusted, women making money on their own.
They're married to the ale.
Yeah, contributing to, drunkenness around you and all that kind of, though in medieval times, it probably didn't have that stigma because literally every water was a little bit alcoholic.
Otherwise, you really get a plague.
Exactly. And that's what they're saying, oh, they're poisoning people. And I'm like, well, I mean, they probably did poison some people with their shitty brew techniques and contaminated water. But that's a sign of the times and not an indictment of alewives.
Everybody was getting poisoned a little bit every day,
Exactly.
That's welcome to medieval Europe where you sleep in the pig filth and the streets run with shit.
Yeah. Welcome to dysentery land.
It's magical. Let's go back to the good old days.
Yeah.
Let's make the world medieval again.
Yeah. It is theorized that the 1700s England and America, they took that image of the tall black hat of the alewives, made it pointy to look like a devil horn.
Oh, of course. The one horn sticking out of the devil's forehead. I remember that hat. I remember it well.
And took that image of then poised over a brewing kettle or a cauldron. Boom. Witches. Witch hat bitches.
Okay, this one tracks. This one, there's a lot of things lining up here.
Sounds like it. If you see those images, the alewives especially, you're like, oh, I feel like this could be legit. But I'm sorry, no. People way more versed in this stuff, the historical fashion and things like that, they say that it's bunk. The time span between those two is way too long. So I'm going to believe those experts. And I'm sorry, Vice, I don't think you got it right.
Oh, from Vice? That was the one?
Oh, it wasn't just Vice. There was a lot of different articles about it. But there are like uber nerds who are like really into historical dress that were calling bullshit on it. Like at least I saw 2 articles that called bullshit on it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to believe the uber nerds and that this one doesn't check the sniff test.
But total badass for the original brewers being women. Like good on our gender, you know?
Making that Skrilla. Yeah, I'm 100% for it. Anybody who sloughs societal norms.
Beer is such like a man thing. It's a man thing these days. But they were
homebrew kits and all that.
Yeah, before beer was brewed by tubby men in their late 30s and 40s with
in their garage
mustaches and or handlebar mustaches and thick beards. It was brewed by lovely ladies that literally married the art of creating alcohol.
Or more likely, they probably married a man who died early, and they're like, fucking hell, I got kids I gotta keep alive. What can I do?
Yeah. Put me in front of a cauldron, baby.
Give me that fucking hat. I'm selling this shit.
Well, the next time I go to a beer festival, I'm dressing up like an alewife. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I like that. That's fun.
Yeah.
Maybe we should go to the Renaissance Festival dressed as an alewife.
Leave the lederhosen behind. It's all about the alewives.
But look up the pictures of alewives, like, and you'll be like, okay, I can see.
Oh,
I can
I'm
see where this comes from.
100%. I'm already there. I literally have it pulled up right now.
Yep. Okay, the next theory is the hennin. That's that tall princess hat with the little scarf. And it does look a lot like a witch's hat. Make it black, add a brim, voila. So these hats, as you can imagine, princess hats, they were indicative of nobility status. And I read a few articles that said it was possible that with the Inquisition and all these accusations of heresy and witchcraft, which were often thrown at women, caused it to be the inspiration for witches' hats. So women, especially pretty women, equals danger. A woman who can seduce you with her magic pussy. Ooh, that girl, she's evil. She's a witch.
I think every pussy is magic, so watch out, men and lesbians.
Devil horns on the pussy.
Oh, I think that is probably some kind of fungus that you should get looked at.
But again, on this one, the timeline does not add up. 200 to 300 years later, these children's books authors decided to use the hennin.
Yeah,
no.
It just, I was also just like, what was the jump there?
Yeah,
the heresy and witchcraft, and then like, witch fair. People will blame the devil for a lot of things that they get caught doing. So they're like, oh, that lady with her tall hat, she was, sent to by that guy. And then they put them on trial. Again, it's a bit of a stretch.
It is. It absolutely is. But like, you know that look, the medieval look where like the 2 humps on the head, kind of like covered by a scarf.
Yeah, that's one of the
like
images
Maleficent.
That's pulled up.
Yeah, think Maleficent. Those were popular at the time with nobility. And then, this more draconian time comes along, Spanish Inquisition, where we're saying everybody's a fucking heretic. And, oh, look at those. Those look like devil horns. Ah!
Oh, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. What a whimsical life it would have giant horns on your head, day-to-day wear.
Yeah.
Man, I can't even be bothered to brush my hair most days.
Nobility that doesn't have jack shit to do. That's like freaking Downton Abbey people living in their goddamn giant mansions in the 1900s had people to dress them, and the rest of us were like trying to, get our lives together. And they're sitting there in their Sunday best every night eating dinner because that's all they had to do.
Times haven't changed that much. Look at what rich people wear today. That's just as crazy. It's not even just their clothes. They just put a bunch of plastic in their ass. So
literally plastic in their butt cheeks. Yeah, that's true.
you did the episode on it.
I know. It took me. I'm like, plastic in their ass. I'm like picturing butt plugs, and then I was like,
I'm sure they
in
do
their
that.
Ass cheeks. Oh, I'm sure that they do.
Because once you have enough time and money and power, you got to raise the bar to get a thrill.
And sidebar, that's where like all our inspiration comes from, right? like our life inspiration of like this is how we're supposed to be living comes from celebrities and influencers where they'll have more money than we could ever dream of having, and we're supposed to chase that dream and buy all this shit. Ugh,
Oh, yeah.
done.
Oh, my gosh. Can you imagine the medieval influencers wearing like a fucking hennin and then the rest of us are buying like these really cheap felt hennins off Shen or like some Asian copy and they're flopping all over the place.
The Wish.com version.
Oh, God. Shop like a billionaire. Shop like the Lord of Dunbury.
So, next one. This is the clickbaity one that you've been waiting for. Is it anti-Semitic? All right. To understand this, we've got to go way back to the beginning of our second millennia, the year 1000. This was a time where there were very few books. There was no printing presses, and every book had to be painstakingly written and illustrated. So every book out there had some weight to it.
Every book ever created was written by some virgin in a castle somewhere.
Yes. And these books had weight, literally and figuratively. Most of these books were religious texts because nobody else had time, to sit there and write things except for fucking virgins in their tower who were getting paid by the church to sit there and draw this fucking book.
What a life.
So our ability to understand why things were drawn the way that they were in this time frame is very, very fuzzy. There's a really great video. It's linked in the show notes. It's really interesting. It is by JewishUnpacked.com. Awesome video. And they were talking about these texts and that there's this Jewish text, this book out there where all the people in it are birds. It's made by Jews for Jews. They're all drawn as
featuring birds.
They're all drawn as birds in clothing doing daily tasks. Why?
Oh.
I don't know. Nobody knows.
So my guess is that the virgin they had locked up making it, he's like, I'm really bad at drawing people, but you know what I got down?
Birds.
Fucking birds. I can draw a bird like, look at this. This bird is exactly how you see a bird in your day-to-day life. And they're like, you know what? Fuck it. Go with it. Just give it a pointy hat.
So in this year, in 1000, this hat, this Juden hat, started to pop up in religious texts. And it's not a yarmulke, because when you think Jewish hat, right, you think of the yarmulke.
Like a little bowl upside down on your head.
Exactly. But this is not that. This looks a little bit more like a Phrygian cap of the dwarf fame, but without that little cute fold. It's just like a little pointy hat. And in some of these texts, a lot of religious figures are wearing it. And in other texts, it's just the religious figures from the Old Testament, aka the Jews. Then in later texts, a few like 50 or 100 years later, it was worn in some imagery by the Jews who were killing Christ. So we got into that anti-Semitic, like, Jews killed Christ, not the Romans. Wait a minute. Romans, Jews, who knows? Difference doesn't matter.
I mean, I think it was the Romans who actually did the killing, but it was the Jews who were like, yeah, take him. We want the murderer back, you know?
Yeah, details.
They were all wearing pointy hats.
Apparently.
And some of them were birds.
So it gave this pointy hat, the Juden hat, a bad reputation. And so no one really knows if Jews actually wore them in this time period, or if it was artistic license, some sort of like indication of like, oh, this pointy hat like means this person is enlightened. And then later it was twisted to be like, oh, this person is Jewish because they're the ones who are killing Christ. Nobody knows.
If you want to connect the dots on funky hats and religion, look no further than the Catholics. I mean, big weird hats are kind of a part of the dogma of
the
religion
Pope hat,
in general.
Like this tall, like, honestly, it's a little pointy
Pope,
there at the end.
The cardinals, like, they all have funky hats. I mean, it's no surprise that the Jews had funky hats too.
Yeah, everyone's got to get down with their hat game. That's why I wear such unique hats. I'm just like, I got to stand out.
Well, yeah, because you have the wealth to display
Yeah.
in the form of having fancy hats. You know, the rest of us plebes are just toiling away.
I
with our
have
scarves.
4 hat boxes in my closet with multiple hats in them.
I have 0 hat boxes in my closet.
Do you need to be lent some hat boxes?
No, because I don't have any hats to put in them.
Well, then you need some hats. Okay, so fast forward about 300 years, so 1267. Some church council in Europe, again, the continent, decided that to identify themselves, all Jews had to wear a version of this hat. And I think I didn't write it down, but I'm pretty sure that this is in Belgium, like so right next to Germany, so that they could ID those sneaky Jews on site. Because, I mean, I don't think it comes to a surprise to anybody, like anti-Semitism is not a new thing. It has been running through history as long as there has been Christians and Jews. And truly, this hat that they said that they had to wear on site, it is a fashion crime. It is really fucking dumb looking, okay? It is.
Oh, no.
It's like a sorry game piece on the head. So, like, it's like a wide brim, and then it slopes upward to a point, but then the point extends, and there's a little knob and ball on top.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so these countries all over Europe, not just Belgium, but in the surrounding areas, they adopted this mandatory Juden hat around the 17th century. And 100 years later, in the 1700s in America, that's when you start to see witches in pointy hats appearing in drawings.
I mean, the evidence is stacking up. But I will also just say, I cannot imagine loving any god enough to look like a fucking fool.
Yeah, it really does. It looks fucking stupid.
In his name. But this is tracking and knowing how history has been to the Jews. It tracks. Let's just say it tracks.
Yeah, because a lot of the tales that we tell about witches were the same ones that they used to tell about Jews. You know, they ate children, they sacrificed people, they drink adrenochrome. Wait a minute, that one might be a little bit newer from the QAnon fame, but it's all the same shit.
Kind of like what I learned in the Satan episode, which is the same. It's like kind of the same with religion in general.
Rolling Stone picks up anything it don't like. Everything old is new again. So QAnon is picking up all this same shit. We're sacrificing children. We're drinking blood. We're doing all this kind of stuff. We're stealing their power. They used to say this about Jews. Now we say this about the rich elite.
That "Don't Tread on Me" tramp stamp is really talking through the microphone tonight.
I just want to clarify. I do not have a "Don't Tread on Me" tramp stamp. Also, I do not associate with QAnon with "Don't Tread on Me." Other people might. I do not. It's a separate thing to me.
And I just
not
want to
all
be
Republican things or right-wing things are all clumped together, Rachel.
I just want to be clear too. Clear the air here. I do love and follow Satan. So okay, let's keep going.
All right.
This is sounding very bad for the pointy witch hat. It sounds like y'all are a bunch of anti-Semites, and I'm going to call... Is there any kind of Jewish organization?
I'm sure there is. I don't know what it is. I'm not a Jew, but I imagine that there
we live
is
in
one.
a very not
Jewish
affluent,
area.
Yeah, I was going to say not affluent part of the country, so we don't know a lot of Jews. Sorry. We're poor.
But the problem with this theory is... the witch's hat is a British and American thing. It is not a European thing where these Juden hats were worn and mandated. And I think a lot of Americans, myself included, think of Britain as being a part of Europe, but truly it isn't. And that's Brexit aside. It's a whole different continent. The culture and the influences are way, way different.
Oh, 100%. They don't want to be a part of it. They're like their own thing.
They're doing their own thing. They're British. And we take America, we take a lot of our cultural cues from Britain as opposed to Europe on the continent. So nobody can say for sure, but I'm pretty sure, and most, again, other experts that I've consulted, aka read articles on, agreed that this one is probably bunk. Witch hats are not anti-Semitic. at least not in the way that anyone is sure about or can prove. So, hey, wear that witch's hat. Whatever, crisis averted, don't get canceled, you're fine.
But when has the facts ever been important to cancellation, you know? If somebody says this could be that, you're donezo. So let's just, the next time when you go out on Halloween and you see like a little girl in a little sexy witch costume, just say, canceled. Somebody with the wizard cap, Gandalf, canceled. Gandalf is anti-Semitic. The sorting hat in Harry Potter, canceled. So anti-Semitic. It might as well be white and pointy.
I have a different theory about what is going on here. Where the hashtag inspo for this hat that became the hat for witches, there's one last theory. This is the one that I would put my money on. It makes the most sense. And that comes down to oatmeal, my friends.
Oh, I do like a good steel cut oat.
Who doesn't? And who makes the best steel cut oats?
A guy who wears a tri-cornered hat.
It is not a tri-corner hat. Look at it. It is not. It's a Quaker. Quakers, the guy in the box, wears a wide-brimmed black hat. It's not pointy, but it is very wide and very black. It's a little bit tall, but flat at the top.
Oh,
and it is it is a pretty fly fucking hat. But it was also quite the controversy in its time. So let's talk about Quakers, my friends.
I actually really like Quakers, so I am ready for this combo.
I love Quakers. I've got a lot of thoughts about Quakers.
Laura wanted to be a Quaker.
I did. I looked it up. I looked up some like Quaker gatherings and then I read about them and I'm like, this sounds a little intimidating. I don't know that I could do it. Okay, so Quakers, also known as the Religious Society of Friends. They literally called each other friends. Everybody is friend, which is, adorable. And they are Protestant Christians who split from the Church of England around 1650. So if you're tracking England, America, 1650, we're like right in that sweet spot of American and English.
But that's still like 100 years after the Church of England was established.
Yeah. But we're closer
I know my Henry VIII knowledge.
But we're closer to the 1720s, which is around when these witch hats came about in culture.
Enough time for it to like simmer and hit that association, that cultural association.
So, cultural associations, not appropriation. So, Quakers, they do not believe in creeds. They do not believe in hierarchical religious structures. They believe that the light of God is within all of us. They had women preachers, and they told everyone that they were priests in their own rights. They did not need a man on a pulpit to give them God's message. And as you can imagine, this was not well received by the churches at the time. Threat, scary, red lights, people telling you don't need a man above you telling you what to do and giving you tithings to. Oh, can't have that.
Threat level midnight. But these really are the hashtag good guy Christians.
They really are.
Good for them. Good for the Religious Society of Friends.
Yeah. And Quaker, just a little side note, Quaker, quote, worship ceremonies are often entirely silent where people just sit in a room together and then people randomly blurt things out. And I'm like, I don't know that I can do that. Like, it just sounds too awkward for a stranger to walk in that's not familiar.
No. Okay, that sounds familiar. So you have to, you wait until you feel compulsed. The Holy Spirit. Yeah, compulsed. But what if it was just like,
I have to fart.
Yeah, you're just looking at somebody in front of you and you're just like, droopy boobs, man boobs, droopy man boobs. Because I feel compulsed to say that kind of shit all the time. And I say,
mole.
Yeah. Oh my God, they look like they haven't seen the sun in 50 years. Is that God? Is that God telling me to say that?
Probably not. So Quakers, they don't fight in wars. They have their own way of dress. Simple dressings, always. They refuse to swear oaths, like oaths to country.
Or like the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yep, exactly. They oppose slavery and they don't drink. So they are teetotalers. They were generally not liked wherever they went.
Well, who could like somebody who's not going to like swear an oath of allegiance, right? I don't quite know where you stand.
Exactly.
You're not going to have my back in a battle, and you're not going to say that you believe in the same things that I believe in. And also, we can't get shit-faced together. I don't trust you.
I mean, the inherent human bonding experience, right? You get shit-faced and then like tell each other your dark secrets and bond.
That's like where all my friendships begin.
I know this one did. So,
hell yeah.
They were in the Americas along with the Puritans in the 1660s. Puritans are not the same as Quakers. I feel like people a lot of times get them confused. And the Puritans, they killed a bunch of Quakers for heresy because they were teaching basically the antithesis of what Puritans believed. Puritans were telling people, listen to your leaders, fall in line. Women are subservient to men. And to Quakers...
In other words, the same shit we're being sold today.
I mean, yeah. I mean, by certain people. I don't paint everyone with a broad brush, but I feel you. Okay.
This is the same message for the last thousands of years, Lauren.
Okay.
Don't act like
All
it's
right.
like
You're
me
right.
being political.
You're right. Okay, but the Quakers, to the Puritans, they were straight from hell. They're threatening this new country, this new way of life, and they tortured them, they drove them out, they executed them.
America, fuck yeah.
Not too far to how the witch was to be treated, right?
No one should suffer a witch or a pacifist. So let's go on.
To live, yeah. But the rub, Quaker hats, they aren't pointy. But there is some historical hubbub about Quaker hats in general. One of the Quaker founders, George Fox, he refused to take off his hat in the presence of Oliver Cromwell. And if you don't know that name, it might ring some vague bells. Prominent
it sure does.
English statesman. And when George Fox was asked why, he replied,
When the Lord sent me forth into this world, he forbade me to put off my hat to any, high or low. Such hat honor was invented by men in the fall and in the alienation from God.
oh, I like it. That was wonderful. I
Thank
love
you.
that. And so the result of this very impassioned response was to him being imprisoned for 3 separate occasions of this problem. And in the States, or what would become to be known as the States, because in that time frame, we're not yet an independent country. We are an English
Just a
colony.
bunch of fucking randos out in a bunch of wilderness.
Exactly. The Quakers there, they refused to ever take off their hats in public in solidarity with their founders. So for me,
Again, no God is worth that level. I take my hat off, take my top off. You know, I'm trying to stay alive.
in public. Well, that's the thing, right? These are very principled people, you know, and so to them, they said,
cut it.
they said, no, I'm not taking off my hat.
I'm willing to die for it.
And I'm willing to die for it. Exactly. Which is
kind of ridiculous.
It is. But, you know, I gotta respect consistency. It's not my thing, but, you know, people do as they do. And for me, I think this one is the winner. It fits with the geography. So we're looking at America and England. The timeline fits. Quakers were originated in 1650. Give them 50 years to move over into the
really
United
make
States.
an impression.
Make an impression upon people. There's this hat incident and the big hubbub with the hat. And, of course, the similarities with the look of the hat, minus the pointiness, persecution of the Quakers. And I think that what happened is just some artists of the day took some artistic license, gave that hat a pointy end. Again, pointy symbolizing, you know, devil or devil horn, maybe, according to some people. And bingo, you got yourself a witch's hat and the easiest Halloween costume all time. If you don't own a witch's hat, do you even Halloween?
Well, I don't think I own a witch's hat, but I do Halloween because
That's insane.
I mean, but okay, so if you're making fun of, not making fun, if it really did come from not liking the Quakers, is that any better than not liking the Jews? Here's the thing. Has America ever not been an equal opportunity prejudice, right? Like, could this be a combination of the Quakers and anti-Semitism? Like, all these people who are different than us, slap them together, put them on a witch, and burn them at the stake.
I mean, I think that's a good point. But the difference being, of course, there are not a lot of Quakers anymore. Like, look it up. There's one in the whole, like, St. Louis, St. Charles, like, taking
just
like
one.
One church in all. of
I
the
thought you
area.
meant one Quaker, and
No.
I was like, that's very bold to put yourself out there like that. Hi, I'm the Quaker.
There is one place in the St. Louis and surrounding metro areas that is a active Quaker church, at least the only one that advertises on the internet. And again, not advertises, but is even listed on the internet. And I know because I looked into it before, because I was like, I need something in my life.
Honestly, there's more churches devoted to Satan than that in the St. Louis area. No doubt. No doubt.
And way more synagogues, you know? So, I mean, the sense of like, okay, could it be an amalgamation of both? Yeah, it absolutely could. The timeline is a little bit sketch, but the thing is like, yeah, people care if it's anti-Semitic. People don't care if it's anti-Quaker because there aren't any.
Well, exactly. But okay, so here's somebody who works in corporate America in a creative field. What happened? 100%, this is my guess. What happened is some creative made this beautiful design and they sent it to their boss, and their boss was like, I just want it to pop. I just need it to pop more. And so they were like, well, fucking A. And they just drew a triangle and they were like, there you go. It pops.
It pops.
And then by that point, they had the customary, the appropriate amount of reviews and approvals. So they just said, send it out. There you go. And that's where witches came from.
Ended up in that children's book, started to be picked up. And
middle management. We should make middle managers wear pointy hats so we can identify them and their pact with the Satan that is the 1%.
So that's it. There we have it. That's the super sketch history of the witch's hat. And the short answer to the question at the top is the witch's hat anti-Semitic? No, at least not more than anything else.
We can prove.
Exactly. So wearing a witch's hat, whatever, do it. It might have been inspired by the Judencat, but there's no way to know. It's one of those tropes that is so old. We truly do not know where it came from and where those roots are. We just have a bunch of theories. So pick what you like, leave the rest, wear what you want, and enjoy your spooky season.
But if you wear a witch's hat, I'm low-key judging you.
I have an awesome witch's hat. I loved it. I bought it when I was at a Spirit Halloween store in like 2005. I wasn't going to be a witch that year. I just liked it so much. I was like, I have to have this one. I've worn it several times, but I like it.
Okay, I did see witches' hats that were like handmade and like handcrafted at the pagan festival here at by me.
They were cool.
Oh yeah, I was like, okay, I can get behind that because that's made with love, right?
Well, mine was mass made, but it's still really cool.
And yeah, and like if you're wearing it in appreciation, which come on, this day and age, people aren't wearing witches' outfits to be like, hee, those sneaky Jews. No. They're like, I'm wearing this because I have crystals and a tarot and I believe in the supernatural. So, I guess do you. It's just all about intent. As it goes back to all of those costumes that'll get you canceled, it's all about intent. So be witches, dress however you think a witch dresses, but most importantly, be witches.
And also just throw it on when it's Halloween night and you already had all those parties and you already put on all your makeup for all the parties. And then you're like, it's Tuesday. I don't want to put on my Halloween costume. So I'm just going to be Halloween-y and put on this witch hat and hand out candy at my door on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, put on the hat, but also like put on a little something, a little tight, maybe some fishnets. I'm just saying we all
That's
appreciate
exhausting.
it.
It's a Tuesday night, Rachel. I'm not going to put on fishnet. I'm eating Reese's and watching The Evil Dead.
But we
between
appreciate
doorbell
it.
rings.
I'm just saying, if you do, I appreciate it. As 100% heterosexual woman, I'm like, you look good. I like it. I like the vibes. I appreciate the effort. And who doesn't like to look at like shapely women? Sorry, that's the world we live in.
All right, well, that's a wrap on this one. We will see y'all in another 2 weeks. Don't forget, everybody, tell your buddies, share the podcast, leave a review for us little nobodies. Be the cool kid that's into a podcast that no one else has heard of and be like, oh, I got this cool podcast you should listen to. It's called Impolite Society.
Be the illustrator who first drew a pointy hat on a witch. You can set the trend, but the most important thing, do not forget, never, ever forget, especially on a cold, eerie night in October, stay rude and keep marching to the beat of your own drum.